All right, it is Friday, March 12th. I know one guy that's getting down, get funky, getting loose. Dak Prescott.
Oh.
And here's Riggo.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so happy, Todd. When I came in here, I was in mourning, actually, but you got me all fired up. I'm in mourning for a reason. We was together yesterday, had a little business meeting, and so I go home. Now, I started about 10 days, 12 days ago. Actually, I think it was 13 because it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. It's either that or Sunday. I had some tomato seeds from last year that I had out in the garage. Now, normally, and I think this is what you're supposed to do, is that kind of stuff you want to keep in a cool, dry place.
Okay.
So refrigerator, because there's no, refrigerator actually is a dehumidifier as well. It takes the moisture out of the air, plus it also, energy exchange, takes the heat out, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't do that. I left these seeds out in the garage. Well, the garage can get up to 95, probably close to 100 degrees in the summertime, which can't be good for seeds. So I went down there. I put together a little potting soil or whatever, seed starter soil, a little perlite, a little vermiculite, what I have in there, a little sphagnum peat moss, and did I put any compost in it? I can't remember. I think it was just those three things. Didn't put the compost in yet. So I have all my little tray, my little potting tray.
How about cat poop? Would cat poop help? You got a lot of cat poop.
I eat that. But it's got to be certain. It's got to have a certain degree of moisture in it. Yeah.
Sorry, I asked.
Are you going to be okay?
I'm good. Empty stomach.
I don't actually, because I'm going to tell you something. Now that you bring that up, you got me on a whole different segment. Get me back to the tomatoes.
I'll get you back on the main highway.
But I gotta flesh this out on the cat poop because. Man, I went in there because we have two, and I went in the other day into their bathroom. Oh, Todd. I came out there on my hands and knees.
A little untidy, eh?
Oh, God, I can't imagine. I can't believe I just said that about eating cat food. I don't think so. Maybe cat food.
I'm not sure you can take that back, John.
Yeah, well, anyway, so it seemed like the expedient thing to say. So anyway, I got these plants. I thought, well, what the hell? I'll give it a shot because I was going to order more anyway if something didn't happen. Guess what? About 4 or 5 days later, beep, here they come. They're coming out of there.
Little bud?
They were popping up through the soil or through my potting soil. And so everything was going hunky-dory. And the last couple of days, obviously, has been unseasonably warm. The day before, I think it got up to the low 70s. It was in the low 70s. And what I got to thinking, well, because I put them in a window, got a lot of glass there, but they say, they'll get leggy. Plants will get leggy if you just use sunlight from the window because they need exposed to air. Leggy means they really grow tall and stretch out a lot, and, you don't really want a plant like that. So I was thinking, well, I'll just take them outside. That way they'll get plenty of sun. But I had a plastic cover over the top of them, which is translucent, and it's like any kind of vinyl you can see through it or whatever.
I'm stunned at your level of detail in this.
I'm working on that.
The terminology, the science that you have thrown into this is already so far over my head.
Well, I got to tell you though, in all honesty, it's really only because of the internet. Because nowadays you can look up anything. It's not like I grew up,
You're not super smart, is not.
I'm not super smart. And I can semi-follow directions. So anyway, I put them out. I had them out there the day before, left them out all day, no problem. I brought them in. Everything was great. So yesterday I get home. I took them out there probably about what I think is about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Sun's out, beautiful day. Gets up to almost 80 degrees. It was
no
79.
wind.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have made a difference because I had a cover on top of them that the sunlight was getting through. So it was really like a hothouse. It was like a greenhouse, really. At least that's what I'm thinking. So I go down and say, I got to take, and a couple of them were really looking good. I went, all right, because I put a little fertilizer on them the other day, mixed it up, gave them a little cocktail, and everybody was like, getting their exercise. It was just excellent. I go out there yesterday, Todd, and every one of them, I mean to a plant, was laying flat in its little bed. I mean, completely withered, dried up. It's funny how a plant, the stalk on a plant, when it actually loses all the moisture, it just collapses. And it was just, it was like spaghetti. There was no turgor left in them whatsoever. I'll tell you what, Todd, you can't believe this. I'd only had them for 2 weeks?
You were attached to them?
Yes. I was. I mean, I didn't feel it. I don't think I felt like crying, but my point is that when you bring something like that, I can only imagine what it's like to be a mother. There can be only one true love in the world, and that is a mother's love for its child. fathers, yeah, but nothing like the moms. We got to be serious about it.
You know what it sounds like to me, John? It sounds like
Do I need to lay down?
the guy running the quarter miler, and he's the sprinter, and he comes out and he's rocking. You know, he's a quarter way through the quarter, but he's got nothing left at the end. And you might have let off a little too fast with their development and nurture.
Yeah, that's what happened. I think they call it dampening off, but I can't. I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, to a man, to a plant, to a woman, whatever, nobody survived. There were no survivors. I mean, I was sad and part of it was because, I mean, on the one hand, I wasn't overly torn up because I hadn't really got that emotionally attached to them, but it's weird you will. I mean, remember all those arborvitae plants? I've got those big trees out. Well, we lost a bunch of them here about 3 or 4 years ago, and I got to tell you something. That bothered me. I can see where people talk to plants, sing to plants.
We're not going to do it today, but we'll do it here in the spring and the summer here. You got to tell the story where you almost lost more than those trees.
You mean the old?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's see what happened.
Yeah, we'll do that for another show because that's a good story.
Yeah, that is a good story.
And the last time you used that Super Bowl winning speed.
Like I said, Usain Bolt, come on. All you got to do is show me, if you can create the facts that were present that day, the stimuli that I had.
The adrenaline kicked in.
I think I can beat 9.58 in 100 meters. I think I can go maybe even down around 9 flat. But anyway, yeah, I was really kind of upset about that. And part of it is now I got to reorder, start it over. And so it's like, it's almost like probably, what's his name? Was it Elon Musk? Was it his rocket that came down? Everything came down perfect, and when it landed, the perfect landing, and then it exploded.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened to me. It's like, all right, the plants are coming up. I didn't think they was going to make it, and it looks great. And then
your loss cost a lot less financially, emotionally, about the same.
Yeah, I think it's about the same. Well, I don't know. I can't say that, but yeah, that was a little bit of a setback. So I still got to order seeds and start all over again. But it'll be fine.
Well, John, you should have known. Beware the Ides of March.
Well, wait a second. We're going to get into that in a second. So now I got a question that dawned on me 3 days before I actually discovered this. And the only thing I can think of what happened was because it was so warm yesterday, the little buggers probably got burned up. They were like scalded to death by the steam, like Casey Jones.
Now this is getting really sad. Now,
it is.
Now this is abuse.
It hurts. You know what?
This is abuse.
I'm afraid the county's going to come down
there. There might be authorities involved. There might be authorities involved. Yeah, how many people those tomato plants could have fed?
Well, it's not only that, but what they went through, how they suffered there in that unrelenting sun. I mean. I tell you, Todd, I don't know if I can go on. I'm going to have to stop
I mean, this is really getting sad.
Anyway, back to the Ides of March.
Possibly illegal.
Back to the Ides of March. We're real close.
Well, so I didn't realize you just did a quick 15-second Wikipedia TJRS research, and because you were like me, I thought the Ides of March were successive days, maybe like the 13th, 14th,
yeah, I did.
and 15th.
I thought it was a little period of time. It's just one day.
It's just the 15th. It's just the 15th, and I think you suggested maybe that's when Beth Wilkinson's report's going to come out on the Washington football team.
Well, listen, give it a little bit because, like you said, you just give it a real quick run through is exactly what it was all about. But it goes back to the Roman, and it was actually a Roman holiday.
It was a Roman holiday, which actually was the start of their new calendar year.
Then I liked what you also read but it turned out to be a very bad day for one person.
For one person in particular.
Right.
Julius had a bad day.
He had a real bad day. So, I mean, obviously I'm thinking, is it possible? Because the Ides of March will be Monday.
Monday.
Although, if it's going to turn out like it was for Julius, that would probably
Bruce Allen.
That would probably et tu Bruce. Et tu Bruce.
This is all adding up.
If it were going to come out, though, the NFL, and it was going to be that kind of a report, wouldn't it get buried late this afternoon in the news cycle?
They're very good at that, or even tomorrow.
Exactly.
Maybe they're going to release it on a Sunday, keeping with the whole theme. The NFL owns a day.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm wondering, based on, but it's got to be kind of, and the report's already out. Now it's just a matter of them releasing it, right?
From what we guess for what's leaked out so far and what is out there, it's just amazing. I mean, anytime stuff is leaked out or whatever, it's agenda driven, right? This stuff doesn't happen by accident.
Couldn't, not with the NFL.
No, never. I mean, they're as buttoned up as the
Yeah.
CIA, the FBI, or anybody
More
else.
so than actually the CIA.
They
and the
might
FBI.
be a little more dangerous.
I don't know about the CIA, but the FBI, I think probably they're buttoned down better based on what we've seen in the last several years.
Well, there is that.
There's a little fast and loose, but yeah, I don't think that happens much in the NFL. But anyway, yeah, so go ahead. You can divulge what we've learned early on in the week about this report.
Well, some of the leaks that
part
came
of it
out
that was leaked. It wasn't the whole thing, though, right?
No,
Which is interesting.
Of course.
Just a little
Here's some
teaser.
salaciousness. Now let's float it out there, in which the leading recommendation was to basically strip away the franchise, force the owner to sell, and that
That was the number one recommendation.
That was the number one recommendation. You're looking at 21 years of malfeasance, and you've got plenty of lawsuits that have been settled with the cheerleaders,
and still more to go.
There's more to come. You've got the other major story. It's just like we've discussed all these satellites that are out there in orbit that have surrounded this franchise for the last year. The minority ownership, and the guys that own 40% of the team. And what has
bad blood there,
100%. So there's so many moving parts of this, John. It's going to be fascinating to see what the response is, because the other part of it, the secondary recommendation is punishment, because it's 21 years of malfeasance, bad behavior. It's a bad look for the league. They hate that this franchise is always in the news for the wrong things.
It seems like it, yeah.
So are they going to acknowledge the transition period that's taken place since all of this? We're almost coming up on the year anniversary.
The Eddie Haskell moves?
Yeah. We're almost coming up on the year anniversary. You got Rivera in place for a year. All the hirings, all the ground-shaking adjustments that this franchise has made to become the model franchise, which, if this is your last chance, you got one last ace to play. They're playing it. So now, if he survives
in other
that
words,
portion,
they're good guy cards.
That's all I got, because they're serious.
They're good person cards. That's not necessarily. I don't want to get into this. This political correctness going around. We'll say the good person cards. Include the females and males. I don't want to get into being,
We're good.
I don't want to get into being a
We're
sexist.
good. To let you know. No. So the second leading recommendation, based on the leak of excerpts of the report or a portion of the report, is punishment that we've talked about, because in you and I have debated, well, how does that really help? Well, it applies pressure for bad behavior to potentially force the owner to sell, because it's been so bad for so long, and if a financial penalty, potential draft points to impact your actual product on the field that you are trying to resurrect and correct or whatever else, they're not going to get out of this without some pain, period. Either completely gone, which, I still believe that's a long shot.
That would almost be a thanks, I needed that.
But we also know, with the minority partners applying the pressure they did and what amounted to really a hostile takeover, and it looks like they may lose that particular battle, but this isn't done. There's going to be pain involved somehow, some way.
It's kind of interesting, too, because you see a situation where you have basically sanctions coming from two different elements. One, your former partners, and also now from the league. You could anticipate that. I mean, I don't know, maybe you've stayed off the initial brunt of the former partners, or maybe brought that to a standstill. No idea where that is. But now you got the cloud of the league hanging over you and what they're going to do. I don't understand this part, though, from the league's perspective. If the recommendation is for some kind of punishment, I don't get that. To me, it's a one-off. You're either in or you're out. You either say, hey, you know what, they've straightened up, everything's good, I'm fine with that, and roll the dice in front of the court of public opinion, NFL speaking about this, and for the team itself. Or you say, you know what, sorry, you out of here. We're going to bring in a relief owner and do it a whole nother word. We're going to lift it. Because the punishment, to me, how does that work? I mean, in other words, everybody wants to see their franchise to be successful. Particularly, I think, if you start talking about flagship franchises that you want. And this, supposedly this franchise in Washington was one of the more heralded franchises in the entire league. With
It was.
Exactly. So would you not want to, if by punishing them, you make the road even longer and harder to get to where they bring themselves back to respectability? What's the purpose in that in the big picture? To me, if that's the whole point, but here's where it all hangs up, I think. I mean, the whole point is to resurrect this flailing franchise is what it would be. I don't see punishment as a remedy for that. The only one I can see is you have to let it go as is, and you can't hamper a franchise that's already been so self-destructive. I mean, they will continue to do that. In other words, I guess what I'm saying, the writing on the wall is I would think option number one would the more you think about it and you look at it from more and more different directions, and I guess, what do you call it, you apply the Socratic method to it and you ask a lot of questions, it'll keep coming back to option number one. I mean, I really think
okay, so short of that, and from a
the
legal...
only thing, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did want to say one thing, but the only thing probably that hangs that up is I'm sure that there could be 31 other guys that are going, if not for the grace of God, there goes I.
And clearly, 100%, because it's happened so few times in the legalities of what have to, this could end up being a messy lawsuit because he won't go down, right? So it was Leonard Tost, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they basically came in. He had a massive gambling and drinking problem, and
debts too. I thought it was always about debts.
Well,
he
he
owed Atlantic City so much money that
right.
They were going to have to send Moose and Rocco over to see Leonard.
From Philly. That's even worse.
What did John Rickles always used to do? Moose and Rocco. I never got.
Moose and Rocco.
I never got. Well, that's from Caddyshack,
right?
But,
But you cannot see. This was a model franchise. This was a top 5 franchise of what you and your teammates built, and the legacy of that brand of what it was. And from the time that this ownership has taken over, the malfeasance involved. They have, the Cleveland Browns have finally, that phoenix has risen, right? They finally look like they've turned a corner and are heading in the right direction. But they've been the Cleveland Browns they've been a doormat for the longest period of time, right? Cincinnati Bengals.
And that was once a very respected franchise when Paul Brown was there.
Cincinnati Bengals, Jacksonville Jaguars. So there are, out of 32 teams, somebody's got to be 32, 31, 30. The Washington football team has been in that level of depths for a number of years. So now they're not going to get away without some punishment here. And for the window dressing and all that has been done out there, because I just think they're not going to get off scot-free here. That they have to punish them and say bad behavior. It's like if you own a McDonald's franchise.
Well, they're punishing the entire league at this point, and I guess you have to accept that and roll. But it would seem that by lifting the ownership and transferring to someplace else, it would completely change everybody's outlook, wouldn't it? And
Agreed.
And it's got to be that everybody else is like, well, if they look at money close enough, they maybe could find. Nobody wants to vote that way because it could come back to haunt some people. Otherwise, if you just look at it from a pure logical standpoint and you take that issue off of it, I think it's a. You can't see it any other way but to bring in another ownership group, I would think.
That's the path of least resistance and what would be better for the league. Deep-pocketed new money, real money, a Jeff Bezos. There's so many wealthy tech titans that would love to be in this club that could truly benefit the league on a lot of different levels. And with what Amazon is doing and their involvement with rights fees and so...
I ain't into Amazon, so that makes me not into Jeff Bezos.
Let's park that one there because I know.
Just for the record, okay? I still like the idea of minority ownership.
Yeah.
I think
you laid that out.
If they're going to lift it, I think that's the way they should go. In other words, just take the what rule is it? The
Rooney Rule.
Take the Rooney Rule and extrapolate a little bit further. That's what I'd say. You know what's interesting though, Todd? If you really think about it, there's about 2 decades of where, in the early 70s, Washington kind of, for the first time in forever, which I think goes all the way back to the 1940s.
I believe
which
you're
had
right.
been a 30-year drought. But then again, I don't know what, the franchise went in Boston, but not necessarily really known. I don't think they've ever had the same mystique. Well, I take that back. They created it for sure. George Allen came in, took them to a Super Bowl. And there were some playoff years, and Joe Gibbs comes in, and actually for a decade they're like in the Super Bowl every couple 3 years,
domination,
and winning 3 out of the 4. Exactly, they were. That is that block of time when Camelot existed. So and they've been around for 1937 they came down here, but they were in Boston for all those years. So this franchise is really one of the original NFL franchises, I think, that's out there. And that in its own self makes it, kind of one of the Mount Rushmore. I mean, you give the Cowboys all the credit, but they were an expansion team back in the early '60s or whenever it was. So even though you can feel about them however you want to, or even take Oakland, an AFL team, Washington still is one of these flagship franchises. And like I said, you have to look at this and go, there's no other way to look at it. But I personally, here's what I think. I think it's going to be exactly what you said. And I think that punishment is going to be basically a slap on the wrist, get the ruler out. Okay, Eddie. Eddie. Got whack, whack, whack. Okay, Eddie, don't do that again. And then that's going to be the end of it. But the thing is, and people across the country, they're not going to care. The only people that care will be the Washington fans.
True.
And I think that there are so many of them that, like anything else, if you've been, I think it's like in Vegas, right, at the crap table. They're ready for a new shooter. They're ready for a new shooter. Exactly. So we'll see what happens.
I don't know. We're ready for a new dealer.
Yeah. That's another one. You like that move too. I do that to Coco all the time. I go, Coco, when we end an argument and I feel like I won it, I go, hey, Coco, I'm done. There's a new dealer.
New dealer.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
I'm out. No hidden cards.
That's it. And what's great about Dude is then the Dude turns it back on me when she whips my butt in one, and then she'll go, hey, Daddy. I'm done.
And we look forward to getting Coco back in studio with us here in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, by the way, I got to interject this because this is one of the things I want to talk about at the very top of the hill. I was outside. I was born and raised in the country for the most part, right? Little town of Centray. I lived in town, but my dad had property, so I spent a lot of time out in the woods, which everybody knows I like to hunt. Just was out camping here for 10 days or so out in Kansas in December. So I'm one of those guys that kind of I like being in Mother Nature when I've got to relieve myself somehow. So the very place where my little beloved tomato plants perished yesterday, I step out there a lot of times, and I'll take a pee in the backyard, right? Well, it happens my backyard faces the C&O Canal towpath. It goes from Georgetown all the way to Cumberland, Maryland. And I was out there the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, because you never know. I mean, bikers or whatever. You're just out there, actually taking, relaxing and having a bodily function. And it hit me the other day. I said, I'm wondering if somebody, somehow you're not paying attention and a hiker or a biker comes by and
they're getting a shower?
Well, no. I don't have a stream like that. I mean, I need to shoot it about 70, 80 yards to make that happen. I got power, not that kind of power. Prostate still needs a little more spinach for the prostate.
30-year-old Riggo might be giving him a blast.
I don't even think the 30-year-old Riggo could have done that one. But I thought to myself, gee whiz, am I out here? Could I be arrested for indecent exposure? And so I didn't, and I thought, well, I'll ask Todd what he thinks about that. Now, I did look some stuff up, and I think that the answer in one word is yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially in the neighborhood that you're in, I'm going with they're calling the authorities. We got one of them preverts.
But if it's only one person, then it's he said, she said, right? So it's what are they going to do with that? I don't know what they're talking about.
A lineup, maybe?
I don't know what they're talking about. Then I'm going to say, did you have binoculars, sir? Because without binoculars, I don't think your testimony is going to amount to anything here. But yeah, I did. But yeah, sadly, I found out I've got to be careful when I do that.
In today's world, you never know.
But is there anything better? Of course, you're a city boy. You wouldn't know. But
no, I
sometimes actually step out the front door. The little landing I have there. And
you're pretty much.
Sometimes I step out the back door where the kitchen is.
I've seen you do a lot of balconies.
We've got all these glass partitions around, and there's like every go so often, it's almost like a ready. But it's almost like what they've been in the old days, like at the Alamo, where they got that stuff all built up, where you can get a rifle out and shoot.
Right. The little.
Yeah, a little peephole, so to speak, or a pee hole, if you want to call it. But yeah, I'll step out there. But you got to be careful because a lot of it'll fall. It'll go down below and splatter on the bluestone down below. So I'm going, can't do that. But there are some areas there where you can actually, it goes into the yard. But I go, well, let's see. I'm about 30 feet from that spot right there, and it's about 40 or 50 feet back to the actual restroom. Where would I prefer to go? Well, obviously, I'd rather be outside. There's just
you're
something.
communicating with nature.
You got to try. Well, I'm just telling you. When's the last time you peed outside? Can you remember?
Every time I play golf.
Oh, well, then, so you know the joy.
Of course.
Well, don't you feel better?
Of course. Yeah.
Would you much rather go outside than you would inside?
Absolutely.
I think
there's something that's freeing about it.
Well, I think it gets back to, our atavistic roots, maybe, because that's, it was either you couldn't go in the cave, could you? I don't think so. I mean, it's like, Jesus, we got to get
one shitty cave.
We got to find a new cave, man. This is wrong.
What are we, Neanderthals? Actually, yes.
Exactly. We're knuckle draggers, damn it. Go ahead. Let it go. All right, I had to get that in.
Well done, because we got to talk about Dak Prescott in this unbelievable contract. And my goodness, the salary cap, they announced earlier in the week, it got reduced, I believe, by about $15 million and some change.
15?
And it basically comes in at about, I think, $185 million and change per club. Anytime it goes down, and based on the pandemic and everything they've been through, but there's so much money in this league still. So Dak gets 4-year deal, $160 million, up to $164 million. He gets a no trade clause, no tag provision. The guarantee is $126 million.
Does that beat Donald?
It's Mahomes. Remember?
Oh, that's
Mahomes.
Right. He was the half a billion dollar guy.
And the interesting part, so Mahomes signed a $450 million. It almost sounds weird quoting these numbers. $450 million. He guaranteed.
But how many years?
Let's see. His is a 10-year deal.
Right.
And Mahomes is 24. His is 10-year. So he gets $95 million guaranteed at signing, which I think he's
95?
95.
They cut him a check right there?
95.
Does that go against the cap immediately?
Well, no, it's spread out over the life of the contract and how. Okay. So you've got all these ramifications that come into play. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, because I don't.
Because the guarantees, that is guaranteed. It's just like we knew with Alex Smith off the large deal he had here. If he never played another down of football.
If he gets arrested for selling coke the very next day, he still keeps the
Well, there is a morales clause,
okay,
so there is that.
You
got to be a good community guy.
Hey, good. You know what they say? Good enough.
So, I mean, it's just stunning because you got to remember, Dak Prescott. All right, so Dak is 27, right? He's played 4 1/3 seasons. He played all 16 games his previous 4, then got injured, and which is why the 1/3 from last year, that awful injury, dislocated ankle, fractures, and but what has he truly done? It just shows you the power of the position and how desperate they are. I like Dak Prescott. I like everything about him. I like how he comports himself off the field. I think he does it right. But ultimately, this is a win league, right? And so he's got a couple of wins in the playoffs, but he hasn't taken to any promised land. There's not an NFC division, or I don't even think they played in the championship game.
No,
not in his tenure. So it's just stunning and staggering what quarterbacks get these days and the power of that position. And you're going to continue to see, which we've seen dramatically over the last 20 years, the rules to protect these guys. These are your assets. Any way you cut it.
They're the queens.
It's all the marketing that goes with it, and it's Dak Prescott versus Patrick Mahomes. We saw it with Alex Smith, right?
Well, Kirk Cousins is a pretty good example of this, where, people are willing to overpay and see what happens. I don't know. For me, Mahomes, to me, is what I've seen of this kid. He's a different critter. None of these other guys are in his league. When I saw I said it, I'll say it again. What I saw in the Super Bowl, he was the MVP. Without him in the game, he was almost like the kid that played. Why is his name escaping me? For Washington, the playoff game against
Tyler.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke. I don't know why I keep calling him Tyler.
I don't know why I couldn't think of Heineke. But without him in the game, you don't even want to know. It would have been unwatchable. And he was doing things that quarterbacks you've never seen a quarterback do before. I've never seen that. Maybe they did. I mean, John Elway is the closest guy I can think of.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
You would think that that was
from
the guy.
Any angle, from any position, from any situation.
Right, and like with the cape on, flying parallel to the ground, throw a touchdown pass that gets dropped. I mean, that's hard to do. At least I think it's hard to do. I don't know. I've never tried it. But yeah, to me, I'm going, boy, I tell you what, there's only one guy that you can say, well, he probably is worth that kind of money.
Right.
I can't say that Dak Prescott is worth that kind of money because I haven't seen him prove it on the football field. He was a very pleasant surprise when Romo went down that one year, and he was a rookie, right? And he stepped in, and he performed at a very high level. But he hasn't really grown in ways that you would hope when you see somebody come out of the blocks and play as he did in his rookie season. He's kind of tailed off and hit a certain level. That kind of money indicates you're talking about a guy that is at the very top of his profession, and I don't know. Can you say that about Dak Prescott? I don't think so. I don't know. But then again, circumstances. Put Dak Prescott, say, on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Would he have made a difference? Could he have made the same difference that TB made? I don't know.
And as much as the Cowboys have had to rebuild, and at key positions, I'm going to read off some names to you here. These are the top. These are top based on their contracts and guaranteed money here. So Mahomes is still 1, Dak Prescott 2, Deshaun Watson 3, Matt Ryan 4, Russell Wilson 5, Jimmy Garoppolo 6, Matthew Stafford 7, Aaron Rodgers 8th. Aaron Rodgers is now the 8th paid, and he got that.
He ain't liking that.
But he just got his record deal, I think it was 2 years ago. Jared Goff is tied with Aaron Rodgers. We'll call him 9. Carson Wentz, 10. Derek Carr, 11. Ryan Tannehill, 12. Kirk Cousins is now 13th.
And he was one of the top guys at once upon a time.
100%. Teddy Bridgewater, 14th. Now, the next two quarterbacks, this is fascinating. Drew Brees. Here's the big guy. Tom Brady, 15th paid. He's guaranteed.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
Guaranteed only $50 million. 15th.
I can't fathom that. I don't know exactly. Here you got. Brees and Brady.
Right.
Poster boys.
Right.
That would be. You could make the argument greatest all time ever. It's based on statistics, so on and so forth. Brady 7 Super Bowls. Breeze, I think, just won maybe. I don't know if they went to another one. I was having a thought, though. That kind of money, you could make the argument that it's almost like there's a story about the man with guns who deals with the man with gold. No, the man with gold who deals with the man with guns soon has no gold. You could make the argument that the quarterback is the man with guns. Obviously, the owner is the man with the gold. And you can see how that works, because I would think he gets into this 2 years, right? Prescott does. And I'm trying to think, well, let's just say, what's his name? Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. Let's say next year Cleveland goes to the Super Bowl, wins it. He's a Super Bowl MVP, has a fantastic season. He's going to come out and be commanding $50 to $60 million a year.
Yeah.
These people will be going, well, wait a second, if he's worth that, what prevents them? In other words, you would think there'd almost have to be language in a contract that if you breach this contract, it gets into any contract that you write.
Surely there is, yeah. You don't have the right to constantly, and that's what.
Well, not only that, but you would be found in breach, and like in any contract that you've written, where there's the what do you call it? Damages that are in. What is it in a contract? Usually they talk about the damages, but unspecified damages that would be, in other words, you can't calculate the damages.
Right, because the flip side is, what if you can't go? The owner can't go back and renegotiate because you had 2 crappy seasons, or you get hurt.
Exactly.
And I remember when Aaron Rodgers did his deal, and maybe it's longer back than it was than I'm thinking. It might be 3 or 4 years ago now, but that was record-setting at the time. And the one thing about Drew Brees and Tom Brady's their age, right? And so shorter-term deals, more money up front. But we've always, and it's fact that Tom Brady has taken short money because the greater good of the team, and a couple of quarterbacks, including Ben Roethlisberger, and another big name just did it as well, where they have just restructured their deals.
Right.
Because they know if they ain't got the guys up front and the horses up front.
And that, yeah. See, I got to say that I didn't think like Tom Brady. I'm like, give me the money, all the money. I want more money. I don't care. Yeah, but you won't have anybody blogging for you. That's my problem. That's my problem. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the Benjamins.
Well,
no, that clearly they get it for
yeah.
sure.
Well, it's that time of year with free agency about to explode, and we're gonna see. We'll get into running backs. We're gonna get into running backs later.
I'm curious to know. You don't happen to know. I'd be curious to know what Derrick Henry, what his last deal was.
Well, I got that.
Don't tell
right
me you
here.
happen to have that right there.
Oh, I sure do.
I'm gonna start crying here.
Well,
in a second.
Ezekiel Elliott is the
highest paid running back.
Yeah, he is the highest paid running back. Give me 1 second, because I do have this, John.
Take your time.
TJRS. All right, John. For running backs, it was Ezekiel Elliott. His the value of his contract is $90 million. His guaranteed at signing was $28 million. Number 2, Alvin Kamara. He got a 5-year deal, and he got $22 million guaranteed on his signing bonus. $75 million deal overall. Christian McCaffrey, number 3. Dalvin Cook, number 4. Derrick Henry. He got 4 years, $50 million value, average value of 12.5, and a signing bonus of 25.5 million. So he's the fifth highest paid.
What's he? He got 5 years for 50 or 4 years for 50?
4 years for 50.
So about $12.5 million a year. So here you got a guy like Derrick Henry who rushed for over 2,000 yards this year, and he's making $12.5 million. And there's defensive tackles and offensive tackles that I got to believe are making $18, $19, $20 million.
Running backs, one of the lowest paid positions now.
Exactly. They're at the bottom of the pecking
The last time I did this exercise a year ago, I'm not making it up, it was kickers and punters were
same level,
were right below them. That's it. I mean, it's a shutdown cornerback.
Right.
It's a wideout. It's still your left tackle.
It's basically everybody. There's the two positions are mirrored with each other: wideout, cornerback, offensive tackle, defensive end. Those are those positions are the highest.
Linebackers,
and they all make about the same amount of money.
Linebackers and running backs are pretty much chum.
Safeties and that kind of stuff. Exactly.
So we'll get into more of that. Free agent season is upon us. It's the off season. The money's flowing fast and furious, even with the reduction in salary cap. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Well, I was going to add this though. We won't be back. We will take a.
We have a little hiatus here on TJRS. We'll be back in the following week, on the week of the 22nd.
Okay.
Little spring
good.
break action.
Yeah, we're going to have to get down the road. All right, Riggo out.